Hello, everyone. Oh my God. I am just so excited about today's episode of Ask the Drummer. And I am really nervous as well. Very, very nervous because today we've got like a legendary drummer guest. I'm so excited to chat to him on the show and stuff. But anyways, I just want to say, today's Sunday. For me, it's like the best day of the week, and it's just gone. Oh, it's just gone 2 p.m. in the UK, 9 in the evening in Manila, and where my guest is coming to us from. It's 9 in the morning. It's really early on a Saturday, but yeah, he's woken up and he's up early and everything, and I just had like a quick chat to him before we went live. But anyways, I wanted to dedicate this special episode to my dear friend Vivian Wilson. She's in Glasgow. She's amazing, and it's actually her who linked me up with our drummer guest. So thank you so much, Vivian. This one's for you. So yeah, let's bring our drummer guest in now. My dear friends, coming to us live from somewhere near New York, and he's legendary, the world's first hip hop session drummer. Please welcome Keith LeBlanc.
Hello. I gotta correct you though. Oh. I'm one of the first.
One of the first.
Yeah, Ed Roll Bedward, known as Pumpkin. He was doing sessions, live drum sessions, and drum machine sessions the same time I was in New York, and we heard of each other because we were the only two doing it at the time. But I never got to meet him. And he passed away several years ago, but not many people bring him up. So
well, that's all. I think so. You're now regarded as the first.
Well, I'm the first still breathing the air on purpose, probably. So.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, and happy Father's Day.
Thank you very much. It's different in the UK, right? It's a different day.
It's today. It's a Mother's Day. Mother's Day is a different one.
Oh, okay, that's the one that's different. I knew one of them was, yeah.
Yeah, because Mother's Day in the UK is like March, but for the rest of the world, it's like in May or something. But Father's Day, we celebrate it like this on the same day.
Well, thanks for straightening me out on that.
So, I asked you earlier. I hope this is not too early for you because it's like 9 in the morning on a Sunday morning as well.
No, I'm an early riser, so it's good.
Yeah. But we've already got someone who joined us live. It's Mike Edmondson. Hello, Mike. He said that it's great you've got Keith on the show. He's a long-term hero of mine.
Wow.
I bought Malcolm X No Sellout, and I've loved his work since then. Well, thanks for that, Mike. But yeah, so anyways, welcome to Ask the Drummer. Episode 84 is all about you, Keith LeBlanc. So we're gonna start from the very beginning. Can you tell us where were you born?
Bristol, Connecticut. It's sandwiched between New York and Boston.
And that's still when you mentioned to me before that it's like EST, that's still EST, isn't it?
Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time.
So the East Coast of America.
So did you grow up in Connecticut? You stayed there, born and stayed in Connecticut?
Yes. Good place to grow up, really. Because they're being between New York and Boston, I got to see a lot of really great musicians growing up. So it's a good place to grow up for a musician.
Yeah.
Because you've got the country, and then you've got, the influence of the city as well.
Yeah. Well, coming up. Well, I'm actually originally from the Philippines. I know that whenever I hear Connecticut, I think of Yale University because that's what Connecticut is famous for. Is that it's well known for Yale University.
Yeah, New Haven. I'm 20 minutes from Yale.
Oh, wow. But would you say that Connecticut is also like a musical city, like say Manchester or Liverpool?
Mm, well, I don't know Manchester too good. I've only been there a few times, but so I don't know whether I could compare it. But it was there's a lot of culture in Connecticut, and if you know where to look, and so I think Yale being there, being so close to Boston, being so close to New York, it's kind of like a big sprawl now these days. It's like one big city from New York to Boston. All this more people, I guess.
Well, I googled like the most famous musicians from Connecticut, and it gave me the Carpenters. So
no kidding.
They're from there. So
the Carpenters.
Yeah, the Carpenters and Michael Bolton.
Well, I knew Michael Bolton, but I never heard the Carpenters before.
Yeah. Apparently, they were born in Connecticut. The Carpenters. So, like, yeah. So
wow. Well, I know Al Anderson from NRBQ, and he was from Connecticut. And I guess he lives in Nashville now, writing songs for people. But amazing guitarist, songwriter. He's from Connecticut, and my hometown in the 40s had its own song. No, it was the 50s. Excuse me. Called the hook line. The only thing I remember about it was the hook line was "The kids in Bristol are sharp as a pistol. Let's go do the Bristol stomp." And it was kind of a I don't think it was a big hit.
Well, were you from a musical family yourself?
Yeah, half and half. My mom was the musician, singer, played piano, and always played music in the house. My father was a tool maker, so that came in handy. Playing drums, I could have him make me things once in a while. But my mom was a musician, really. So there was always music in the house, always.
Yeah. But have you always been so like drawn to the drums, or did you try other musical instruments?
Well, I dabbled with piano. I played drum boards and percussion and things. But really, the first attraction was the drums, because at the time I was hyperactive and dyslexic. So, and they didn't even know what dyslexia was. So the drums came very easily to me. So, being hampered with hyperactivity and dyslexia, it's hard to fit in a lot of places, but the drums I really just fit into perfectly. So I think that's why I focused on it. Plus, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you mentioned like dyslexia. I mean, in the old days, or especially, when I was growing up, I think that wasn't a thing. So people don't actually say that, he's dyslexic or she's dyslexic. I think, when you're at school and you can't focus well, or you're not doing well, they just say that, he's not good. So, but now I think you can actually diagnose when someone is, dyslexic or.
Yeah, well, they wanted to give me some drugs for the hyperactivity, but my grandmother got me a drum instead. So
Oh,
that was
instead,
very,
yeah,
so that
yeah.
kind of took care of the hyperactivity. But the dyslexia, I didn't find out I was dyslexic till I was like 40 years old. I just thought I was original in some ways.
Oh,
So,
but it didn't sort of like hamper you. It didn't sort of like stop you from, doing things. I mean, it actually made you more sort of
well,
like,
I could do things, some things really well, you know,
yeah,
like playing the drums. That, I could listen to something and I could do it.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but spelling was horrible. I had a tutor for spelling and everything, and I'd memorize the words and I'd still mix up the letters.
oh, I see, okay.
And I still do it today. I know
Yeah,
how to spell, but anyway,
yeah, yeah,
but it's handy for some things because if I do a production, I already know all the assets I need for the production, and I already know where they go, and I'm pretty sure what it's going to sound like before I even start. So that's handy, and I can look at a room. Say I have to cover the wall with something, and I can go to the store without any measurements and just pick out the right amount. I might be over by a foot or something,
yeah,
little
yeah.
tiny bit.
And it's the perfect, it's all like the perfect measurement is all.
Yeah, so it comes in handy for that, but it takes me 2 days to do my taxes, and my wife does it in 15 minutes.
Wow.
So that's
Yeah. She can help you.
that's
Like,
the discipline. That's that's how it.
but so going back to did you do your drumming? Did you go for drumming lessons or were you just self-taught?
Both. I started just playing with records, learning the drum parts. Then, my parents got me lessons. I was in all the music classes in school that I could find.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
And I studied and played, but I played a lot. So that's why I say both. Because if you're playing with recordings, you can play with the best musicians in the world, and it's really not any fun unless you learn exactly what the drummer's doing. And then once you learn that, then you can improvise on that, and it really becomes fun. So it kind of really puts you in the zone of holding a band together in a musical way. So I think that helped me a great deal. And then the study was mostly for technique, which I still work on because I'm pretty sure I suck most of the time. I mean, that's the way I feel. It's always a progression to get where I want to hear, which I don't think I'll ever get to, but I'm curious about how far I can get. So it's a constant process, I think.
Yeah. Well, on your Discogs entry, it actually says, now this is a bit so like technical for me. It says, I've got to read this, so like, because you are unique for your bass drum approach, which consisted of very precise 16th notes. And also, your hi-hat approach is also unique because you rarely play eights or 16ths. But you do syncopated patterns. Now, I did ask my husband, my tech support yesterday about this because he's more sort of like musical thing. And by the way, he said that sound and vision A-okay, so that's a good thing. So he kind of sort of like explained to me what that means. But could I just ask you sort of like what? Because for someone like me who's not really into sort of like musically.
Probably the easiest way to explain it, my influence for doing those things. the 16th note bass drums, that was a stab at being a human drum machine. It kind of worked on a track. I was recording a lot, so I would always try and embellish the music without interrupting the groove. And I noticed recording that I had terrible hi-hat chops. And Yogi Horton, a pretty famous drummer who's passed away now, played with Diana Ross, Luther Vandross. He used to be the session drummer at Sugarhill, so he came in one day for a session, and it was a really straight beat, 4 on the bass drum and 2 and 4 on the snare. But he embellished the whole thing. His hi-hat was singing songs, the whole way through it. So I went, wow, I like that. I'm going to steal that, And then being on the road with Parliament Funkadelic for about a half a year, I got to watch Dennis Chambers every night. And he had some great hi-hat chops that I immediately stole, off of him. Most people would say, oh, I was greatly influenced, but I stole his stuff and then, did what I do with it. But that's where that came from.
Yeah, it's like drumming very, very fast. So like having that 16 notes, because that's what like how my husband described it to me. It's like you drum.
Well, it's faster than quarter notes. Yeah. I mean, the way I learned to play drums was basically I was having a temper tantrum, and my mother locked me in a closet. I was about 3 years old, and I start banging on the door, and so I noticed that if I banged with one hand, quarter notes, I could fit in eighth notes with my other hand. I was quite fascinated by that. And then, I tried, and I said, oh, let me try 16th notes. Hadn't discovered triplets. I was only 3. Oh, but and then my mom let me out of the closet, and I started doing that kind of stuff. So that was, I figured it out, the basics.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. So like such a young age, figuring out those notes as 16 and quarter notes and things like that. But anyway, so Neil Barker said, hello, Keith, and hi, everyone. So let's thank you for joining us, Neil. Can I just ask you, so what was your first band?
Well, my first had a lot of bands, battery-powered amplifiers, microphones stuck under the guitar strings, But first working band, I was about 11 or 12. And that was a band called Little Jimmy and the Soul Testaments. And we actually made really good money. We were good. We did all Motown and Stax Records, all the stuff, Wilson Pickett.
Yeah.
We had a really good singer. And the band was good. Everybody was older than me and the bass player. We were like 11 and 12. And we had gigs. The older guys would get really good gigs. So we'd make about $250 a night, like early 60s. That was pretty good money.
For an 11-year-old, getting $250.
Well, not me personally, the band. We had to split
that's amazing. So after that, when did you join Sugarhill Gang? Or Sugarhill Records, more like?
Basically, this great drummer, Harold Sargent. He's dead now. He played with the Skull Snaps, and he did a lot of early recording at Sugarhill Records before it was called Sugarhill. He was playing with a band called Wood, Brass, and Steel, and he had to leave the band, so he was looking for someone to replace him. And he came up to me in the club and told me he wanted to hook me up with the bass player and the guitar player. So,
how old were you then?
19 or 20.
And you were in a band at the time, or?
I was in a lot of bands. I was traveling the country in show bands. You know, because I got paid good money, and I was still playing music. And,
yeah.
I had a hotel room every night. I didn't have to clean up, and it was great. But in between gigs, I would go to all the jam sessions in Hartford, and that's where Harold saw me play. And so I had to do an audition, but Harold had put in a good word for me, and the band liked me, so I played with them for a while, and then that band, Wood, Brass, and Steel, had recorded at All Platinum Records before it was Sugarhill, and Sylvia called and wanted us to come up and do some recording. Skip McDonald guitar, Doug Wibbish bass, and me, the new guy. And I guess Harold put in a good word for me. So we didn't go up there right away, but we ended up, when we did go up there, we went right in the studio and started recording immediately. And,
yeah.
it was like 3 years of constant recording and gigging after that. So that's how I ended up there.
Wow. Earlier I said that I'm really, really nervous about it, excited at the same time, because when I heard Rapper's Delight, I was only 10.
Wow.
Immediately, I really loved that record. For me,
well, I didn't play on that record.
You didn't play
Skip McDonald didn't play on that record. Doug Wibbish didn't play on that record because we didn't want to go up there right away. Well, Doug and Skip didn't want to go up there right away because their last album kind of, some funny things happened with it. So they were reticent. But when we heard Rapper's Delight,
yeah,
we decided to go up there. And Sylvia got this band, and she wanted us to record it, but she got this band called Positive Force from Pittsburgh. Brilliant band. And they recorded it. And then when she got us in, she got rid of them. And we recorded everything else after that. But didn't record Rapper's Delight. I don't know the drummer's name who did it so long ago, but he was in that band Positive Force.
Oh, right. So
they were a great band.
Yeah. But then when they did the tour, or at the time, you were already the band that was sort of like playing with the Sugarhill Gang.
Well, the first gig, we had two bands. It was Positive Force and us. Two of everything on stage at Harlem World in New York. And then the next gig, Positive Force wasn't there anymore. So I think it might be a very old school tactic. If you want to get rid of one band, you have both bands do the show. The other band learns it. The band you're having a problem with goes.
Oh, I see. Mike wanted to ask, what Grandmaster Melly Mel songs did you play on when you were in Sugarhill Records?
No, can't remember them all, but ones that come to mind are Freedom, It's Nasty, White Lines.
White Lines?
Yeah.
Whoa.
What else?
Wow.
Birthday Party, but there are a lot more, but
yeah. Well, You have written a book about your time in Sugarhill Records, and that's actually how I got to know, or got to hear about you, because Vivian tagged me in one of your posts, because you're looking for a publisher to
Yeah,
publish.
well, that's like a whole nother job, and no one's taking me up on it. They all like the book, but I guess I'm told they've got so many other. Well, COVID, everyone was. I'm going to finish that book. Got nothing else to do. I don't dare go out of the house. I'm going to finish that book. So everybody did that, and so I'm not, really well known. I'm kind of a underground acquired taste, maybe. So.
Well, Mike just said that we are in the presence of a real pioneer. So I do hope that you get a publisher, because I think that would be really interesting to
Me too.
put it
Me
out
too.
there.
Me too. It was a good thing to do. I'm happy I did it. Let's put it that way.
Well, okay. I know that we've got something exciting happening, but I'm going to ask you about that later on in the show. But in 1984, you left Sugarhill Records to produce for Tommy Boy Records. Now, Tommy Boy Records is actually, whenever I see that label, I keep thinking of Information Society. Because did you ever sort of like produce some of their records, or?
Did I ever produce some of their records?
Yeah, so Information Society. So like sounds like What's on Your Mind, you're like Pure Energy and all.
Well, I produced some records for Tommy Boy. And very transitional. I done No Sellout. And that's how Tommy Boy was interested in me. So I put out, me and Marshall Chess put out the record with them, because he was my partner in it, and Betty Shabazz as well, Malcolm's wife. So then I started working at Sugarhill Records, and thankfully Doug and Skip were interested as well, and this wonderful singer named Craig Derry. So we ended up being kind of the house rhythm section at Tommy Boy for a while.
All right. Wow. Well, that record that Mike mentioned before, Malcolm X No Sellout, according to Wikipedia, it's the first ever record that features sampling.
Yeah, I think samplers had come out at the time, but they cost as much as a really expensive car or cheap house. So I didn't have access to one. And I didn't even know they had been invented, really. So I just used tape to, they call it flying it into the multi-track. It was a hit and miss process.
Yeah. Well,
kind of use a 1/2-inch tape machine. You've got the vocal all queued up that you want to record on a multi-track. The multi-track's going, and you just kind of use it like a DJ, or like a drum or something. You get that timing right and get it in there.
Yeah. Whenever I sort of like think of sampling, I mean, the group that comes to mind straight away is De La Soul, because they sort of like 3 feet high and rising. That's very much sort of like a sampling kind of sort of like album, is it? They did a lot.
Yes, De La Soul. That would be their stuff was really done by this guy named Goda. I don't know his last name. I can't remember. I want to say Yoshida, but I'm not. I think I've got it wrong. But a great drummer, programmer.
Yeah. That's like 6 years after you've done your first sort of like sampling, is it?
Yeah, probably the first one to copy what I did was Paul Hardcastle with 19.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. Well, I've forgotten about that. Yes, that is true, because I think there's like a billion other versions of 19, so like all different sort of like sampling things.
Big record. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I gotta say that the title of your book is actually No Sellout as well, which is the title of that
Yeah,
song that
because
you
it
released with Tommy
kind
Boy.
of starts and ends with that story, but you know, it's kind of a Quentin Tarantino put together
Yeah, yeah.
type deal. You know, I never wrote a book before, so I
Oh,
was lucky. I had a brilliant editor, so one of the
well,
best.
I really hope that you'll be able to sort of like find a publisher. So any publishers out there, they should
Yeah,
contact you and
yeah.
get it out there, release
Get
it.
in
So
contact on Facebook. You know, I check those messages because just in case, you never know.
yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about the other bands that you were in now. Most especially because Mike also wanted to know how did you get involved with Tackhead?
Um, well, this weird guy showed up at one of my sessions and was asking me a bunch of questions, so I threw him out of the studio. That's how Tackhead started. And that was Adrian Sherwood. And then
Oh,
he showed up about a month later and was in, I was working at the studio called Unique Studios. And he was sitting in front of a tape machine. All the engineers were in the place, were crowded around. And he's playing this track, and it's killer. And the needles were sat in the red like this, you know, occasionally moving, you know, coming up a little bit from pinned. And so I immediately was interested. You know, it's like, oh man, I can't believe I threw this guy out of the studio last month. So, and he was doing this thing that I'd been trying to do, make chords out of bass drums, and he had some of that on the recording. So we went to breakfast, and Tackhead was born. Really, that's how it happened. And,
wow.
we started making trips over to England and using the studio like a new experiment, you know, like a new instrument, just trying to break ground. We weren't interested in anything else, actually.
Yeah. Adrian Sherwood, that's the On You sound, guys.
Yep, the on-new sound guy. Yep.
Yeah. Well, my friend Vivian actually said that she's been to one of Tackhead's gigs, and she said it's absolutely incredible because it's more drum based or more so like focused on the drumming.
Well,
So
I was lucky in that sense because, like, Adrian had a lot of the concept ideas. I remember in the beginning, and I was into the same thing, you know, spoken word over a beat, and drum machines were still new, so I was, you know, I could play drums, so I was using the drum machine as a new instrument. That's the way I looked at it, trying to make it do things drummers could never do. And you know, we started making records out of this stuff, and then we got a lot of press. Everybody was interested, and so we had to figure out, oh, how are we going to do this live?
yeah,
You know,
it's like, yeah,
so you know, I think the first gigs I had like this violin microphones, these tape things you put on violins and bowed instruments. And I had one on the snare drum and one on the bass drum. And I was using it for triggers. They hadn't really made them yet. And we had this keyboard sampler, and I could trigger one bass drum out of that bass drum sound, and Skip would play the snare drum. Some of the first gigs were that basic, but then S9000, Akai S9000 came out, and that was a game changer because I could trigger eight different things, and so we just progressed from there. And Doug Wimmish got himself a bass pedal thing, and he was
yeah,
triggering samples with his feet. And Skip had a keyboard. He would occasionally trigger samples off the keyboard. And Adrian, and I would mostly have a drum loop going on. I'd program a drum loop on the DMX, and so we would all play against that. And that was critical because Adrian was dubbing everything out front. And so he wanted the echo speeds, he had all the effects set to be the same every night, consistent. So that was one way to do it. So we were basically playing with a click every night too. And so we recreated the records the best we could live by actually playing the samples in, and playing our instruments at the same time. And that was a lot of fun. And
was it difficult? So like playing the drums and then, but also thinking about all the other switches that you need to solve.
Well, it's just like, necessity is the mother of invention. I mean, we had to do some gigs. We couldn't keep putting out these wild records, people liking it. So, and it turned out to be really fun. And everybody was interested. All the other bands were interested about what we were trying to pull off. I don't know whether we did it every night, but it was a great time. Because every day a new piece of equipment was coming out. Every week some new piece of gear was coming out. So it was a great time to be in the middle of that, really.
Well, is that right that Tackhead actually became the backing band for Mark Stewart?
Right.
Is that right? Yeah. So
Mark had his own slant on it. Really miss him. That was unexpected, his passing. But he's a genius. I mean, I didn't get along with Mark at first.
You didn't?
Not at all. I didn't get Mark at all. Coming from America, I was wild guy. But over the years, we just got really close. I finally got Mark, and he finally got me. So miss him greatly. But total genius. I mean, I think I ended up doing the producing the 9 Inch Nails album, and Adrian as well, because of what we were doing with Mark. Trent was just trying to recreate that. Same with Al Jorgensen from Ministry. They were listening to Mark Stewart records. Mark was like the forerunner of all that stuff. So.
Wow. Well, Mike's got another question. No, it's got a message. It said, the end of No Sellout is extraordinary. Brothers, sisters, friends, and I see some enemies. So he said that it's amazing record. So
Oh, thank you. That was a very nice thing to say. Thank you.
Yeah. On Discogs, you were in so many different bands that if I had to ask you all those bands, we'd probably still be here till tomorrow or something. So I'm just going to ask for other things. So we've talked about Tackhead, but there's one called The Enemy Within.
Well, those were just most of what you're saying. I was in a lot of bands. There's sessions or projects. As far as playing live bands, probably Tackhead, Little Axe, Mark Stewart and the Mafia. And then jobs that I did. Played some live gigs with Gary Kemp from Spandau Ballet. And let's see, a lot of one-off pop gigs and great artists in the UK. So, but most of the things you're talking about, I think, are projects or sessions that I had done. So.
Right. And I've noticed also that the core personnel of these sort of like projects or bands, we say, is like the people you worked with Sugarhill. So
Yeah,
there's,
for you know,
yeah, there's
what
here.
we were like one of the last rhythm sections, you know, where people called the rhythm section because they didn't want to waste time in the studio getting the band to gel. So some guys that were used to playing with each other and had a definite feel. So after we left Sugar Hill, we did a lot of that type of recording as a rhythm section. We would get calls in New York for a lot of sessions. And then when we transferred to the UK during the 80s time with Tackhead, we got a lot of calls for that sound, you know. So we all ended up working on a lot of the same projects as well.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I also found out you've got your own record label called Blank Records, and that's a UK label apparently. So, were you based here for a while, and then you moved back?
Yes. I lived in England for like 14 years.
Oh, right.
And
Yeah.
rode my bike all over London. And I lived in Kent for a while and Kings Langley. And then, you know, I ended up moving back to the States in about 2000, year 2000.
So have you still got this record label? Do you still
Yes,
release
it's virtual. I don't put out vinyl anymore. There's still some out there, but on that, and it's very small operation. I got distribution with the Orchard, and I put it on Bandcamp usually first, and then it goes to the Orchard eventually. But it's really, you know, I was in the UK and I said, I'm going to start a label. Works good for Adrian Sherwood, you know, and Adrian helped me a lot getting it going because he's a master at doing that. And, but it's really hard to run a label and be a drummer. You know, it's a totally different animal. So I'm really happy for the technology now, you know, because I could put out more or less what I want, which is fun for me to do. And there's no deadlines, things like that.
Yeah. Well, Neil said that you played on the Artists United Against Apartheid single Sun City. That must have been a great thing to do.
Oh, I think me and Doug Wimbish got the Most Valuable Players Award because that was produced by Little Steven and Arthur Baker, Little Steven Van Zandt.
Yeah.
And they called on me and Doug like bosses on a drum site. We were doing everything. Every day it was, and all for free, you know, it was all for good cause. And, but we got to meet loads of great people and play with loads of great musicians we probably would have never met otherwise. So it was a lot of fun.
Bono was one of them, wasn't it?
I loved Bono. He was so cool. I mean, Bono was like, I didn't really know about U2 or anything. You know, I knew Bono was somebody because everyone was kissing his butt in New York, but I didn't really know, you know, so we were waiting for Keith Richards to show up to do a thing.
Yeah.
Both me and Steve Jordan. And it went for like 2 days. We kept getting calls. Keith's still asleep. Keith's still asleep. So I guess Arthur and, you know, they had Bono scheduled to come in the studio. So, you know, he just walked in. He was really cool. He saw me and Steve Jordan there. And they had this big packing crate in the studio. I think, you know, it's a big piece of gear they had brought in. It was still there. It was empty. And Bono went and hid it. and he had this song he wanted to do called what's the name? Silver and Gold, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah, Silver and Gold, yeah, yeah.
And so he told me and Steve Jordan he wanted us to play this packing crate. So, you know, this thing's as big as me and Steve. You know, it's taller than us. So Steve's on one side, I'm on the other side, you know, on the other bit, so we could see each other. So we came up with a beat, and he did that song over it. And he's really nice guy, really down to earth, lovely to be around.
Oh, well, earlier I mentioned that there is something exciting happening. So, like, you've got a new project or a new album coming out on Friday, I believe.
Well, it's been they hired a big promotion company to handle the promotion of it. So they're rescheduling the release of the album. So it's supposed to be out the 11th of August now.
Oh, okay.
They're going to release singles from it up until that time, but the album won't be out proper, and you probably won't see any vinyl or anything like that till August 11th. But it won't matter because I really love this record. It's just one of those things.
we've got to say that it's called the Chess Project.
Well, that's the name of the band, the Chess Project. But the name of the album is New Moves.
Okay. So
by Chess Project, you'll find it. You know, that's the main title that's going up, and then New Moves is in small print.
Yeah. So how did this come about, the Chess Project?
When I moved back to the States, no one knew me, so I called Marshall Chess. Asked him if he had anything, you know, might be interested. And he said that he was trying to get people to remix the old Chess Masters, but they didn't have any multi-tracks. All they had was half-inch tape, stereo mixes. And he said, no one's been able to do it. So I said, well, send me some of the songs. Let me give it a try. So I used my way of doing things and did kind of a hip hop thing with it. And Marshall really liked it. So I just started cutting tracks, and over quite a long period, we figured it out and put together an album, and it's come out really good. So,
and this has got something to do with like Chess record label.
Yeah, they're all the Chess. They're all Chess songs, original songs. But the only thing that's original on it, though, is the lyrics. I totally did completely new tracks for these things and rearranged them. So it's definitely a step forward with what people have done with the blues.
Yeah. And do you have because when I think of Chess Records, I think of Etta James. Yeah. At last. So will that be included in the new?
Well, I've done it at a James track actually, but we're gonna do. There's basically interest in more records, so we're gonna do another one behind that, another album. Yeah. So I've already started on that, and there is an Etta James track on that.
It sounds really exciting and interesting, actually, to have a sort of like completely different spin, you know.
It was a lot of fun. It was really a lot of fun. Because I went into it not knowing anything about the blues, you know, except 1-4-5 chord progression, you know, playing with guitar players and stuff. But I really didn't know the history or anything. So in the process of doing the projects with Marshall, you know, I got educated basically, and Marshall Chess, and but it was good because I didn't have any what's the word? any reverence for the blues. So I just did what I wanted to hear with it, with the lyric content. And I was, you know, I was able to get some really great musicians on it, which helped a lot. Skip McDonald plays guitar on it.
Yeah.
Eric Gales plays guitar on it. Paul Nowinski played for Keith Richard. Loads of people in New York. Upright player plays bass on it. Mono Neon plays bass on it. Mohini Day plays bass on it. And Reggie Griffin does some synthesizers for us. And then Bernard Fowler's singing some amazing stuff on it. So it was really done for fun. I mean, there was no money involved with it. Of course, everyone likes to make money, but Marshall and I's, our motivation was to just do something we wanted to hear, you know, that wasn't out there. And I think we've achieved that. So, and a lot of times really great things come from that motivation rather than trying, well, I don't know whether the crowd will like this one. And, you know, just doing what you like. And if people like it, that's great.
Yeah. But it's been sort of like moved back to August now instead of this coming Friday.
Yeah.
I have to say, Steve Powell. Steve is a producer. You know, he produced Michael Head in the Red Elastic Band album before, but he said that you're speaking with a real legend of the sport there. I saw Keith and the great Dog Wimbish in the mid 80s playing with Mark Stewart and Mafia. Monster players, he said. So coming from a sort of like a producer himself. So thank you for joining us, Steve. Yeah.
Really, really nice of you to say that.
Yeah. So also Mike said, can you tell us about your album Malcolm X 98 birthday edition?
Oh yeah. That was something a lot of people were bugging me to do. So I just whipped something up that kind of, I tried to do a current version of Malcolm's thoughts. That's probably the best way to describe it. You know, something that transcends black or white for everyone. Just some good, knowledgeable thoughts for this future we're heading into, which is pretty crazy, you know. So that was the motivation for that. And that's
when did you release this?
What?
When did you release this album?
That was on Malcolm's 98th birthday, I believe. His birthday.
This year?
Yes, and I put it out on Bandcamp. It's only available there. Nowhere else.
Right. No physical copies, no CDs,
no, just digital. Just digital.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'll look it up. So you've got your own sort of like Bandcamp account.
Yeah, it's just it's not like a professional account or anything. It's just me, and I just put the weird stuff I do up there, and you know, some people like it. It's not. It's like a little cottage industry or something, but it's fun, you know.
Yeah. Mike also said he didn't know that you drummed on 3 Tina Turner tracks.
On who?
Tina Turner?
Yeah, I did. That was all Trevor Horn's fault, really. He hired me to do all those sessions. He produced Silent Wings album, so I'm on quite a few tracks on that.
Yeah,
but I never got to meet Tina.
Oh,
because
you played drums, but for her album, but didn't get the chance to.
Didn't get to meet her because she was going through some health things at the time, I think. So Trevor brought a studio to her at her home, and she voiced it there.
Oh, I
I
see.
suppose
Yeah.
if she was, feeling better, I probably would have met her, but it wasn't meant to be. But I'm glad I got to play on one of her
Right.
albums. Such a
Yeah.
incredible human being she was.
Yeah. Um, what music do you listen to now, Keith? Ask Mike Adams.
Mhm. Sometimes old, sometimes new. Um, I always check the internet for like some new people doing something I hadn't thought of. Just really great music out of nowhere that's for free. Um, but when I pull out albums, there's one record I love listening to every once in a while. It's called Deep Forest. I think that was the name of the band. It was like put out in the '90s
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
by
It's
this
like
French.
instrumental. It's
Huh?
instrumental, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's got the voices of all the natives. They recorded this tribe. I forget where, and they made
Yeah,
an album out of it.
yeah, I remember that. Like Deep Forest in the 90s. So I think I
Yeah,
was living in the Middle East when I heard about
I
that.
love
Yeah.
that. And sometimes I'll pull out like just go exploring with pop records that I loved. Like maybe check Steely Dan's album Asia or Tears for Fears. Rule the
Oh,
World. I mean,
yeah,
I love that guitar solo. It gets me every single time.
yeah,
And then, I'll listen to some Herbie Hancock Headhunters.
yeah.
I always check certain people's new stuff. I'm always interested in young generation coming up. Rap music, not so much. I mean, I check the beats and everything, and the newest stuff coming out, but the
Well, I saw.
content is kind of dark right now. So
Yeah, because I saw one of your posts on Facebook when you posted that it used to be fun. Hip hop used to be fun, which
well, hip hop was really fun in the beginning.
I totally agree. And it's so like more innocent, like Rapper's Delight. And again, that was soul and things. I love that kind of hip hop,
Yeah,
but I think the newer ones, the latest.
I had hopes when I was living in England and I first heard Slim Shady because I forget whose show it was. Famous DJ in the UK, but he would get the stuff about a week or 2 weeks before it came out in the States. And so I heard Slim Shady. I said, "Oh, where was he when I was at Sugarhill? I love this guy." Because the attitude and the content was so funny, and the groove, I think Dr. Dre might have produced that.
Yeah, yeah,
What's not to like, But everything's got kind of dark, so
yeah.
I'm
Have
hoping for a
you
bright spot.
have you ever worked with Dr. Dre?
Never even met the man, but I love some of the stuff he's done. Great
Yeah, I
producer.
think it's absolutely brilliant. I do love Dr. Dre. Well, it's nearly so like 3 o'clock now. I've only got the basic questions that I want. I
Okay.
always ask the drummers. Do you twirl when you play the drums?
Once in a while by accident.
Oh,
Oops. For my next trick. Okay.
but you don't do it so like as a
Oh,
part.
I dabbled with it, but my fingers aren't big enough, and I got a hard enough time just playing the drums. So,
I suppose, especially with Tackhead, if you're concentrating on playing the drums, it
right.
also
I'm, switching things.
yeah, and then twirling as well at the same time.
Yeah, it's too much for me. There are people that can do it, but I'm not one of them.
Right. Um, in your years of playing the drums, have you ever had any accidents or so like what I would call a drumming disaster?
I once, it was early on. I think it might have been 18. I was playing these lounges called the Dial Tone Lounge in Connecticut with one of the high school bands I was in. And I didn't have a proper drum stool. So I was using a cymbal stand for the mechanism to put the seat on. And I would rock while I was playing, and then eventually worried the metal to where it gave way. And right in the middle of the song, I went, disappeared behind the drum set. Kablam! But other than that, you know, I've been pretty good.
Yeah.
Lucky.
Did anyone notice that you're
Oh, yeah, they noticed. Oh, and one time with Tackhead, I got a cramp in my leg. And everyone knew it was coming. And like I managed to finish the song, and like Doug and Bernard came over and started rubbing it out. I was behind the drums. That was like the only other thing I can remember.
I think having a really good drum stool or so like things, I think that's very important, because I remember some of the sort of like drummers saying, you know, not having.
That's the most important bit of equipment, actually.
Yeah.
Everything else comes after that. You got to get a good drum stool.
Yeah. What about drumming heroes? Because Mike also wanted to know, you know, which of the drummers do you like? Do you have any drumming heroes?
Oh, there's so many. I'll give you early influences. So, I forget his name. He played with Stax Records. That was one of my earliest influences. Mel Bay. The guy from the Wrecking Crew. I grew up playing with those records. Hal Blaine, that's it.
Blaine,
yeah, I was thinking of Mel Bay. That's a drum book. Excuse me. Yeah, you know, one of the first drum parts I figured out was Hal Blaine.
Yeah, because I think a lot of drummers really like, you know, see him as.
Well, I didn't know who the drummers were. I didn't care. I found out in later years. I was just copying what I heard on the radio, and you know, drummers from Motown. So those early influences, and then Harvey Mason, Billy Cobham, Steve Gadd,
Ringo Starr.
Ringo was like a huge influence for me, because I spent years picking apart Beatles records. And, you know, the reason why I really built myself a drum set in the beginning was I saw Ringo Starr on the Ed Sullivan Show. It's like, I want to do that, you know, and that's all I did after that. You know, it's Ringo's fault. I actually met Ringo with Doug. Doug Wimbish was with me. And Doug said, he was sitting at a table with Jeff Beck, a few other people. Anyway, he's a wonderful man. And so Doug says to him, hey, you're the reason why my friends started playing drums. And Ringo looked at me and goes, oh, how old are you? You know, a really humble, wonderful guy. I'm glad I spent time picking apart a lot of his stuff, because wonderful human being behind that.
Oh, yeah, it's good to know, because I love Ringo as well. I think he's one of the best drummers out there. Yeah. Is there, because you have sort of like played with so many musicians and sort of like collaborate with lots of them. Is there sort of like, can you think of someone that you would like to maybe collaborate with or play drums for, like right now, like current band? Or
I'd love to play with Herbie Hancock. I would love that. Patrice Rushen. I'd love to play with her. Okay, God, there's so many. That's a great question. Wow. I've gotten to play with a lot of people um, that I was dying to play with, but Herbie Hancock's got to be the top of the list, I think.
Is he still doing music, or Herbie
Yeah,
Hancock?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I would have loved to have played with Wayne Shorter. Uh, um, uh,
Well, hopefully someday you sort of like get to collaborate with Herbie. I've got to say that Rocket, that single Rocket, has
yeah, Bernard
absolutely.
Fowler's on that. He's, I think, well, you know, he was in that band. He was working with Herbie at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, that's not one of my favorite things that Herbie did. Actually, I like. Um, but it was Herbie. It's the Miles Davis influence. It's got to be, because Miles never did anything again. He never repeated himself. He always progressed to something new that interested him. And I think Herbie's done exactly the same thing. I don't
Yeah,
think he's done it on purpose. It's just, you know, how he thinks.
yeah. Also, it reminds me when you mentioned Bernard Fowler, because I thought I recognized the name, and I realized now because he used. I don't know if he's still doing it, but he used to do sort of like David Bowie songs.
Yeah,
He did, yeah,
Bernard's on a lot of
with
records.
Slick.
I mean, he he really, you know, helped create a whole genre, garage music, with the Peach Boys.
Yeah, yeah,
And of course, you know, he's done a lot in the past years. He's done a lot with the Rolling Stones, but Bernard, he played me this thing he did in Spain that was off the chain good. I've never Argentina, a whole Argentinian orchestra. It's all filmed really, and I always imagined he could do that with his voice because he has such facility, but I never heard him do that with his voice. One of the most beautiful things I've ever heard. So I'm hoping that sees the light of day soon, because
yeah. I mean, it seems to me that you're really like a big fan of music, and then you take everything. You're not just sort of like looking at, say, hip hop or maybe just electronic music, but you actually sort of like love pop music and other like maybe jazz or whatever. But
music moves your soul, and it's great to be open to everything,
everything, yeah, that's
because you
true.
know then you have less of a chance of missing something really good. And
Yeah,
I like listening to what moves me. And when I play drums with a band, I'm listening to the whole thing. It's like I put on a recording and I'm sitting back listening to it. So and I grew up playing with recordings, so I think um, I'm not listening to me. I'm listening to the total thing. And so yeah, I tell people to be open and listen to everything. Give everything a chance. You know, you can always
yeah,
turn it off.
yeah.
And,
'Cause I'm gonna say, like before I said that I'm from the Philippines. There's always sort of like this big thing that if you're a new waver, if you're a fan of new wave, then they sort of like look down on people who like hip hop. But I just love every sort of like single thing. I do like hip hop and I do like new wave.
oh, don't get me wrong. I do understand that, because I was a musical snob for years, and you know, I suffered being that, because I missed a lot of good stuff that I've discovered since. But yeah, I get it. You know, I
Yeah.
understand that one.
Well, my last question for you is: what would be your advice to aspiring musicians or aspiring drummers? If they want to like last as long as you, and become legendary like yourself.
Mm, don't be afraid of change. Embrace it. and see what it means to you personally. See what you can do with it. This could be in technology, the envelope of your instrument being pushed by several people, and try and play every kind of music there is on the planet, and explore rhythm worldwide. And always remember that the drums are a very original instrument, so you can learn something from every drummer you see, no matter what the level.
Do you think anyone can learn how to play the drums? Or it's got to be in you? You've got so... like, you seem to be like you're a natural drummer. At 3 years old, you were so like doing this.
Yeah, but I've met a lot of people that are a lot more natural than me, you know? So, you know, there's some people that just, oh my God, if I could play like that, oh, that would be wonderful. But everyone's heart beats different. Some people are really good at woodworking, you know, but they can't clap in church in time, you know? So I think to a certain extent, if you ever watched American Idol, people that thought they could sing couldn't hold pitch at all, you know, but to them it sounds good. So just take other people's advice. Don't bring it out in public. Keep it in the shower, you know? So I believe there are some people that probably don't have any interest or talent for the drums. I think you can learn rhythmical structures. Anybody can learn that if you concentrate on it. Just some people are a bundle of nerves and need to hit things for a living. You know, so.
That's true. Well, thank you so much. Before do you want to just say, to everyone that keep an eye out for the release of the chess?
Yes, keep an eye out for the chess project. I'm sure you'll like it. It doesn't matter what kind of music you like, you're gonna like this.
And that's August the 11th.
August the 11th, official release of the album.
Is there like Facebook page for the chess project, or is it just?
There's actually it's more a YouTube channel. It's
YouTube channel, right? Okay.
It's called the Chess Tribute page, and they've got everything chess there. It's very interesting. Podcasts by Marshall Chess, some amazing stories. And I was listening for hours. I put on one of the podcasts. Wow, you know, some of the stuff. So you can get information there. They've got a Facebook page as well. Of course, I put any information they give me up on my Facebook page. And, but yeah, the Chess Tribute page, YouTube page, probably the best place to look for that.
Yeah, well, Aiden said that he just found a teaser video for the chess project, so I'm gonna include that. So, like on the After Summer, so at least if people want to like see it, then know where to look for it. So, but thank you so much. I still can't.
Thank you, Ann. It was nice to meet you. I love the shirt. You made my day.
Oh, thank you. Sugarhill, yeah. And I mean, you know, even Steve Powell was here saying that you're a real legend. So I do agree. And I'm so grateful you said yes to Ask the Drummer. Thank you so much. Thank you. And happy Father's Day, and enjoy. If your kids are going to see you, well, you know, have a nice day. It's your day. So maybe don't do any drumming and just like relax.
I've actually got a gig tonight, so I'm going to have to do some drumming.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, okay. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And,
all right.
Hopefully, I'll get to see you play drums live somewhere in the UK.
Yeah, could happen. Could happen. There's some things in the works.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye
Thank
now.
you, Anne. Bye bye.
Bye. Oh my God. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us live. He's so amazing. I mean, for someone who's so like got that status, he's so humble and oh God, I can't believe it. I still can't believe it. I'm so like I didn't know what to say at first, but I'm glad that it all went really well. And thanks again, everyone. Next week, I think I thought that I wasn't going to do it next week because I'm going to be away, but I think I'm going to be doing a remote broadcast next week. So do keep an eye out for our guest. It's actually a reschedule of 2 weeks ago. It's Jo Quinn from the High Rip. She's finally going to do it for us on Sunday. So please, hope to see you all again next week. But yeah, I'm just really happy right now. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. As always, love music, love life, love drummers. I really love doing Ask the Drummer, honestly. and, and I just want to say thank you to everyone for your support for this show that I'm doing. So thank you. Bye for now, everyone. Bye. Bye.